I'm Dr. SCL. I'm a dad, a chiropractor, and the translator you didn't know you needed in this, the first year of parenting. This is Decoded, the first year, the podcast that turns baby brain confusion, mum burnout, and milestone panic into clarity you can actually use. Let's make sense of the chaos by decoding it together. Hey, welcome back to Decoded, the first year. I'm Dr. SCL, chiropractor, dad, and your guide through the wild, wonderful process of baby development through a nervous system lens. And today we're exploring one of the most exciting and most misunderstood phases of your baby's journey. And that's that 9 to 12 months. This is the leap phase, the moment where everything starts to click. And then suddenly, nothing feels the same. Because this is where your baby moves from being a passenger in their world to a full-blown explorer. But here's the truth that most people miss. The magic isn't in the walking. It's in every single thing that happens before that very first step. So let's start here. Crawling. It is not optional. I cannot say that enough. I know that may sound strong, but hear me out. Crawling is one of the most important neurological milestones in your baby's first year. It's how the brain learns to coordinate left and right, top and bottom, upper and lower. It builds the bridge that later supports balance, posture, right down to fine motor control. When a baby crawls well, the cross crawl, opposite arm and leg rhythmically, it's a sign that the brain's communication pathways are working beautifully. So when a baby skips crawling, or bum shuffles, or bear crawls, or uses any alternate, it's not bad, but it is worth paying attention to, because it often means the brain found a shortcut, and shortcuts always cost something when it comes to integration. This is where the conversation needs to shift from did they crawl, and it needs to focus on how did they crawl. Once crawling is mastered, you'll see a big jump in confidence. Your baby starts pulling up, testing gravity, and, let's be honest, trying to climb everything in sight. And these are not random behaviours. They're the nervous system's way of building postural stability and sensory feedback. You see, most people fail to realise that balance is not from your eyes. It's from the movement of your body feeding the vestibular system in your inner ear. So if it doesn't move, you don't gain this postural stability. And this is why when your baby pulls up and falls, over and over, they're fine-tuning the balance systems in the brainstem and cerebellum that I just discussed. They're learning about space, resistance, gravity, and recovery, all essential for emotional regulation later in life. So if your baby is late to walk, please don't stress. It often means they're taking their time to build that foundation. And that's exactly what we want, because fast rarely means functional. So let's talk about red flags, when we should watch, when we should act. Things that don't mean panic, but do mean pause and look closer. A baby who pulls up only using their arms, not their legs. A baby who stands on tiptoes constantly. Baby who skips crawling entirely. A baby who seems stuck between sitting and crawling for weeks. These are all signs that there might be tension or imbalance in the spine or pelvis. And that leads to primitive reflexes like the Babinski or the plantar grasp reflex. They've been still active when they shouldn't be. That's where gentle, neurologically focused pediatric chiropractic assessment can give clarity. Not because something's wrong, but we can see how well the nervous system is adapting and if it needs some help. Now, when it comes to homework, encouraging your children to move, you don't need fancy equipment or programs to support your baby, just intentional play and awareness. My favourites by far always will start with floor play. Let them climb, pivot, crawl over uneven, different textures, everything. Bare feet. Please don't put your child in shoes. At this age, there's so much importance, let alone foot development itself, but the neurological role they play with feeding information to the brain. Encourage rhythm. This is where things like clapping and music and gentle bouncing all build timing, and they therefore contribute to that postural stability. And avoid anything that's going to be an artificial prompt like walkers, jumpers, etc. They are going to contribute to skipping critical stages of postural control. Remember, the more your baby moves with variety, the more their brain grows and adapts. In other words, movement feeds the brain. So here's the big reframe I really want you to take away. Walking is not the finish line. It is simply the result of hundreds of successful, integrated steps before it. So when I see a baby take their first steps, I'm not just seeing them move their legs and stay upright. I'm seeing a 12-month story. I'm a story of balance, coordination, resilience, and fundamentally trust. That's why in practice, my job isn't to get babies walking. It's to make sure that the pathway to walking is clear, connected, functional, and effortless. Because when that happens, walking just happens. So if your baby is between 9 and 12 months, keep watching the how, not just the when. Celebrate the wobbles, the tumbles, and the detours, because that's where the real magic is. And if you want to understand exactly what each of these stages mean, what to look for, when to support, and how to build confidence instead of comparison, send me a DM and I'll send you a copy of the Baby Milestone Decoder. It's my complete guide to decoding your baby's development through a nervous system lens. I'm Dr. SCL, and this is Decoded, the first year, where we make sense of your baby's milestones, movement, and mind, one connection at a time. Dr. SCL, out. Thanks for listening to Decoded, the first year, where we translate the mess of early parenting into something that actually makes sense. Be sure to share this episode with a friend, a partner, or a mum that you know who is quietly struggling through the noise and secretly Googling every milestone. If you want to hear more decoding, follow @Mount Hawthorne Chiropractic on the socials. Let's keep decoding the chaos. No mansplaining, no pressure, no judgment, just clarity when you need it most. Please note, this podcast isn't medical advice. It's just smart strategies from a Gonstead chiropractor, a dad, and someone who's been in the room with hundreds of mums trying to make sense of their baby's development, their own postpartum recovery, and the constant noise that comes with modern parenting. Always chat with your health team for specific care.